Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bricks, and I am here today with set number 75034, Death Star Troopers. This is a Star Wars Battle Pack set from 2014, ages 6 to 12, 100 pieces exactly. Is available in 2014 and retails for about $13. Now $13 is an odd price point, but it actually fits well with some of the smaller sets at this time. And it's a little bit larger than the price per piece, favorable. But it's still a worthy set in my opinion. Let's take a closer look at this set now. So here's a look at the box art for the set. You can see we have, it looks like Darth Vader is about to grab the missiles. I just thought of that for fun right now. But it's got a really nice look on it, for the 2014 assembly. We can also see on here the Death Star Troopers, well put on the cover, and you can also see it looks like the Emperor guards are just kind of wandering off to the side a little bit. A little hard to fit them in with the main missile that's shown in the set. On the back, you can see it's a punch-out section. We have a lot of pictures for some pretty simple details, because you can move the cannon up and down. It fires one missile at a time, a flick fire launch. And it has the new blasters included. It also shows a scene on top of here, which I'm supposing is a scene that's supposed to dictate from the Star Wars movies. I'm not sure the exact movie that this is based on, but let me know in the comments what you guys think this is from. I don't recognize the cannon being something that was from any specific episode, but if I were to take my best guess, I would say that this is from either Episode 4 or Episode 6. Probably a type of turret or missile launcher that would be appearing outside of the Death Star, which is most likely what this scene is depicting. In this set, you only get 2 small bags that all the pieces are included in, and you also get a small package that comes inside with all the capes for the Emperor guards. Very easy to open package. First bag we have is pretty small for some of the smaller pieces, and then we have a larger bag that holds mainly the minifigures. If you want to see the appropriate division of the parts, you can check out my building video with a link in the description to find out more. Now we'll move these off to the side. We only have 4 extra pieces in this set. The first one is a basic Technic piece in black. This one is more of a stationary item, so you can keep objects in place. The second one is a very similar Technic piece, but this one is in gray, and that's to signify by its design a little bit different than the first one. This one allows objects to move a little bit more loosely. The third piece we have is kind of odd, and I almost didn't recognize it when I first opened up the set. This is an additional piece that goes onto the blaster included in this set. Well, 2 blasters included, but you have this as an additional third piece. It doesn't really work well with other Lego pieces in general, and I've tried it a few times, but basically, it's made for the blaster itself, which you'll see a little bit later. And then the last piece that we have extra is a 1x1 red round plate. It's a translucent one, by the way. And I wouldn't really be sure about considering this an extra piece, but according to the box details, it is an extra one. We get 8 others of this type of piece that are included in the set, but they are actually used as ammo for some of the blasters. Now let's get on to our minifigures. So next up we have the instruction manual. It's actually a pretty small instruction booklet, and I actually like how it folds in half. It comes in the box with that fold in between, so it makes it a little bit easier for packaging and storing away. Right in the front, they show you that you cannot, just be careful when using it around people's faces, because these 2 weapons are blasters, the other 2 are not. Most of the instructions in here are pretty straightforward. It's an easy build, not too complicated. I've actually noticed, though, for part of the build, it has a piece that's a little bit different from the rest of the set as far as pictures go. There's a black piece on the top that's used as a periscope, and it's actually different than some of the images shown on the set. So if you see that this piece on the top is put in the opposite direction, blame the instructions, because those are what they told me to do. You can also see some of the other features of what this model can do. Before that page is the piece count. After that page, we have the LEGO Star Wars website, the list of minifigures from the first wave of Star Wars sets, and then it shows you the sets that they are in, with a little check mark next to each of them. I didn't notice that until now. And then on the back, we get to see the win section. Here we have our first two minifigures of the set. These are the Death Star Troopers for which the set is named. It's actually probably one of the best parts of the set entirely, and I'll say that right off the bat, because they are entirely new minifigures. Now, we've had Death Star Troopers in the past, included with the large Death Star 2 setup, but those do not have the same exact variations as these. They have a little bit of different heads and also different torsos and legs and such, so I consider these to be brand new minifigures. You can recognize them as Death Star Troopers because in the movies you can see that they have these kinds of dark helmets with an odd looking design to them. I don't know exactly what the purpose of the design is, but it's still something that can be recognizable. Now, the reason why I have both of these put in this position is because they are the same front to back as far as torso printing, leg printing, and their helmets are exactly the same. Since they are troopers, they ought to dress in uniform. As I take both of their helmets off, you can see the faces between them. The faces are actually the only difference between each of these figures, but not by a long stretch. One minifigure has kind of a serious look on his face. He's got the headset on him. Neither figure has back printing. And you can see the other figure has a very similar looking face, but he looks a little bit more concerned. If you wanted to, you could try to treat these as their own minifigure, and then just switch out the heads when you need to change expressions if you're using it for brick film purposes. Or if you were just using it for different photographies and whatnot. Each of these minifigures comes with their own new 2014 blaster. This is the type of blaster we'll get into in just a moment. By the way, I wanted to mention, if you look very closely at each of the detail on the helmets, they do a really good job of that molding. You can see there's a little bit of red and blue on the sides of the helmet. You know, that really makes this seem like they did a good job of, making it authentic to the Death Star Troopers. So let's get into those blasters. This is the first LEGO set I've reviewed this year that includes this type of blaster. It's made up of 3 different pieces and is actually available in many different sets, most of them being Star Wars, but there will be some in Ultra Agents later this year, and there's one set so far from the LEGO movie that has this Bad Cops Pursuit. So it's a very simple mechanism. You can clip this on easily. You add your ammo on here, and then you just simply press the button in the back to make it fire. That fires very well, because I remember in my building video, I almost lost the piece. And that has a really good fire function with it. And you get 10 of these that are aimed to use as ammo. Aimed. And then you have an additional one from after building the set. But you could also use that. And any other 1x1 round tiles. So there we have our blaster. So here we have a look at the Emperor's Guards. If you're going to buy this set in multiple packs, just to get the Death Star Troopers, these are probably the guys that you don't need multiples of. You only need about 2 of them, since 2 of them are usually included with the Emperor when it comes to bodyguards. I have both of them put as a front to back so you can see how the cape looks. The cape is actually a light reddish color, like a standard red on the outside, but on the inside it is a little bit darker color. Almost kind of like his arms, which I don't quite understand why the arms are darker than the rest of the robe. I would imagine that, like the traditional one, the one we've seen before, it would have been the same color. But I guess they could just, add a little bit more variation to it by making the arms darker, as well as having the cape on the inside darker than the outside. Now, there are no back printings on these figures, and the faces on each of them are entirely black heads. So unlike your stormtroopers in other sets, these guys do not have any sort of secret head printing underneath their costumes. They are just simply a black head. Now, if you'll give me a moment, I would like to compare this to the original versions of the Emperor Guards. So here we have a comparison between the old version of the Emperor Guard, shown on the right, and the new version of the Emperor Guard, shown on the left. The first thing I'd like to point out is the use of the weapons. I've actually grown accustomed to the weapon that's shown on the right. It seems like a more guard-type weapon. I just don't understand the one on the left, though. To me, when I first saw it, I thought it was an imitation lightsaber or some kind of weird baton. But this is how it shows up in the set, and I honestly don't know what exactly it's supposed to be. But let me know in the comments, because I haven't seen the movie in a while, so I don't know if it's any different than the one on the right as far as authenticity. Now, between the two figures, we have a lot of similarities. The pants are exactly the same. They are plain, and they are red. The torso is exactly the same. If I remove the helmets from each of these, the helmets are exactly the same, by the way. The same mold used. The torsos are exactly the same between these two figures. Looking at every single line on the torso to make those, ruffled effects for the ropes, they are exactly the same. The difference is, well, they still both have plain black heads, as you see when we turn them around. The one obviously has a little bit more of a faded cape because it's been around for a while in my collection. The differences between these two are only really in the arms and the cape. The one on the right, the older one, has entirely red arms, both the arm itself and the hands, whereas the one on the left has two colors for the torso area. It's more the dark red arms and hands, and then the plain red torso, which doesn't make much sense to me. Being a robe, I would have thought that they would be the same color throughout. And also the cape is a darker color on the inside, because we have that two-tone cape nowadays with Lego sets sometimes. When the first version of the Emperor Guard was made, they did not have that availability. But it's still very cool, just to compare these two in mid-review. Let's get back to the rest of the set. Okay, so here we have the rest of the set. This is the actual turret that you build, the main building function of the set. And as you can see, I've put it onto my new turntable, so now we can have this in a nice rotating view. We already put our Death Star Trooper on there as shown on the instructions. You can see some nice details around, all those nice different grays and a little bit of black and some red in there. The translucent red, that is. So now onto the features. First feature we have a spinning chair for our Death Star Trooper. I'm not sure exactly why or how he's supposed to be positioned if he's operating this turret, because he really doesn't have any sort of computer system to operate the turret. He doesn't have any controls whatsoever. So I'd imagine he's probably just facing forward and trying to, have some way of targeting the, anyone that's flying out in space, some of the rebels. But I think that's kind of a weird thing about this set. It doesn't really have like a small computer or anything in front of him to control the turret. The turret has a mind of its own, probably. Second part, we have the turret that can move all the way up, like so, and almost all the way down. This is as far down as we can get it, but still has a lot of articulation here, and actually found it interesting during the building video. On this side, it has the stationary black piece we mentioned earlier for the Technic piece, and on this side, it has the more loose Technic piece that we mentioned earlier. And I thought that was kind of strange, but I guess they didn't want to make it too strict, too stationary, but not too loose of a model. So you still have that ability to move it around, but it can still stay in position wherever you want it. The black piece I mentioned before on top, it's actually backwards on the box art. And the main feature of this, you have all these flick-fire missiles that are just sitting on the ends. I don't know if they're supposed to be part of the turret itself, but they're just shown in the instructions to, have a placeholder right there. And what we have on the back is a function that flicks this flick fire missile out of here. So you have 3 of them total in the set, and one of them is already in position. And simply we just push on the back of this, and it fires very, very poorly. Let me try that one more time. We can give it a little bit more power to it. See if we can get it in the frame. Alright, so it worked a little bit better that time. Depends on how much power you give it. If you just simply push, you're probably not going to get too far. You're not even going to get past the actual cannon itself. And obviously, even though it's a shorter part of the cannon, it would be the most available part for having that firing function with the pieces in this set. Even though these are larger parts of the cannon that would theoretically be firing, they are not really built for that kind of function in this set because they're too small as far as the width, because the main function will be built up here. We do get a couple unique pieces throughout this set. Instead of just doing, a separate part of the video to mention them, I can just point them out on the model itself. We have this 1x2 double cheese wedge on the side. We have this 1x4 piece. It's kind of newer. I don't remember it being in black so much. We have the half version of it shown in gray. We have that 3 times in the set, once on the top and twice on the bottom. And what I noticed also, we have another double cheese slope back there. What I noticed during the building, this white piece in here, it seems kind of new to me. I'm going to have to tear most of this set apart to get to it. We also get some of these 1x2 pieces that kind of hang over the sides. Now, I'm sorry I had to tear apart most of this, but here is our piece. Kind of a familiar piece, but also kind of a new piece in its own way. And I think it's kind of a cool one to get through this set. I'm not really sure of the rarity of this piece at the time of this video, so I'd have to check at some other point and see that. So you can also see in here how that mechanism works. Simply this pushes against the flick fire missile and makes it shoot off. And then this part is just a covering over it, so you don't see that white piece and you don't see the mechanism. But now I showed it to you. So overall, this is a very nice set. I actually like a little bit of this turret in its design because it's a little bit more unique of a model for Battle Pack. It's something that seems appropriate with the minifigures included in the set. I like how we get all those extra pieces. I didn't really show them on frame, but I discussed them. 2 more. And one of them fell. But you can see there's a whole bunch of these you just add on to your minifigures blasters. So overall, I think classic Star Wars fans would like this set because of the types of minifigures we get and at a cheap price. New Star Wars fans might like this set because it's a little bit unique and, could be a nice little addition to any sort of scenery. I also forgot to mention that there's a 6x6 plate on the bottom, which is nice to get in this small set, because we don't get that piece in very small sets usually. I'd say this is a good buy, and I enjoyed it. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time with more LEGO set reviews.